Hi there, I'm the mom who fixed the leaky faucet. It's been a few years while I took some time off to deal with my health, but it was time that I tape another video of something that I find to be fairly simple to do, and thought maybe this could help somebody. Normally an electrician would do this. I am simply replacing a 15 amp duplex electrical outlet. First thing you need to do is turn off your breaker. If you're like me and you're anal retentive, then you've labeled all your breaker boxes, fuses, or the breakers themselves according to what room, what outlet, what appliance they operate. I have done that, and so I know which breaker number to turn off, but just in case, I've plugged in a little appliance that I'm going to leave on so that I know I've hit the right breaker, because it's going to turn off when I come back. Okay, I'm back. It's not on anymore. So we know I have the right outlet, the right breaker. Just to make sure that the bulb didn't blow when I was moving breakers back and forth, I'm going to leave you again for a second. All right, so I tested this in an outlet that I know is not turned off by the breaker, and it still works, which means the bulb didn't blow, and for me that means there's no power coming to the outlet. So you're going to need a screwdriver with a Phillips head. It's the star. I've already removed this side. Before I even remove that, you'll notice that this is loose. That's dangerous because the wires could come loose. You could have loose wires, could cause a short, could cause a fire. It's just bad all around. So when I replace this, I'm going to fix that, and I will show you how after. Anyway, I'm removing this, and I'm paying attention to how it has been installed. You'll notice there's electrical tape on that, and that's a good thing, and we'll be doing that today too. You remove the old electrical tape and you take a look and see what are the wirings. We've got a white, which is neutral, and it has been attached to the silver screw. And then you've got a black, which is hot, and it's attached to the gold screw. So generally speaking, your white or gray wires are neutral, and the other colors, I've seen red, I've seen black, I've seen yellow. Those are your hot wires. There's the silver with your white wire, and that's considered your neutral. And there is the brass attached to the black. That is your hot wire. And those have to be wired back in the new outlet the exact same way. Something else I want to show you is that this outlet is a 15 amp. And that means the breaker that takes care of all of these is a 15 amp breaker. There are breakers or outlets that are 20 amps, and they would look like this. I printed an image off for you. See the difference? There are 3 prongs, a third being the ground, just like there are 3 prongs on this one. However, this one only has 2 flats. That's a 15 amp. And then you'll see this one has a flat and like a T for one of the holes. And that usually denotes 20 amp. The rule of thumb is usually if you have a 15 amp circuit, that's what you have here, then you need to use a 15 amp outlet, electrical outlet. If you're wired with 20 amp circuitry, then you can use either 15 or 20 amp electrical outlet. Today we're going to use a 15. So I'm going to go ahead and use my vacuum to clean out all this debris, and then I'm going to remove the wires and we'll rewire the new outlet. So I just cleaned out all the debris in there, and now I'm going to replace this with a new 15 amp. It's worth paying the extra buck or $1.50, maybe even 99 cents more to get the more expensive one, because from what I understand, the prongs inside the plugs are a better quality, and they grab your plug better, especially if you're going to be reusing that plug, plugging and unplugging a lot. You don't want that receptacle to become loose. So it's better to spend more money on a higher priced item so that the plug remains pretty solid. What I said before about the circuitry, this is 15 amps, so it has to be a 15 amp outlet. But if it's a 20, you could use both. You can't use a 20 amp outlet on this 15-amp circuitry because it'll overload the wiring coming in. They can overheat and it can cause a fire. With this particular receptacle, I'm using the side terminals. That's what these are here. The side terminals, I'm unscrewing them. The copper wiring is wrapped around that to keep it in place. However, there are some outlets that you can buy. This one is not one of them, but you can buy outlets that allow you to use, there's a hole in the back of the outlet, such as the one I bought. There's actually a hole here, and there's a clamping process. You could actually cut this, create a straighter wire, use some wire strippers. Here's a wire stripper right here, and it has different gauges noted on it so that you find the gauge of your wire and you can strip it off, expose your wire, and then stick a straight end in to the back of the outlet and clamp it down. I'm not going to use that because I prefer using the side terminal to screw the wire down on it, simply because it's a lot easier for removal if I ever have to replace this outlet. And I don't need the space saving feature that using the back terminal, pushing the wire in would be good if you needed more space and there was too many wires and not enough room in your box. But I don't need that, and it is harder to take out. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and replace this exactly as I found it, which means I can't use it this way. It's got to be this way. I need to put the neutral white wire with the silver screws, and then likewise I'm going to use the black on the gold screws. That's for your hot wire. I'm going to attach this to the left-hand side terminal, and the black wire underneath is going to go on the right-hand side. So I'm going to go do that. Okay, so I already put the black wire on to the new receptacle, and now I'm going to put the neutral or white wire on. It was on the left side, so we're going to keep it on the left side. You don't want to turn it this way. You'd want to turn it the other way. Reason being is because you want to turn it in the direction that it will remain tightly wound on there when you turn your screw. And your screw is being turned clockwise. So you don't want to turn it against the curve. I like to pinch the wire. I don't know if you can see from there, but I like to close it a little bit more this way. So if I can get my pincher pliers in there and do that, that's what I'm going to do. I just did it like that. So now the wire is really hugging that screw underneath. There's no chance, no matter how much I roughhouse with this outlet to put it back in, that it'll come undone. And I'm going to screw it. Screw it in until it's tight. And it is. Okay, so I'm ready to put the outlet back in the wall. But one last measure that I like to do, and I do this for all of my outlets, whether they're ground circuit fault interrupted, or those are the ones with the little test buttons, or there are switches in the wall. I like to wrap it with electrical tape, but try to get a piece that actually fits. Don't shortchange yourself. So the reason I do this is because it covers the terminals just in case there is a wiggle, jiggle, and it doesn't go back in right, although despite the fact that I did tighten the screws really well, I just like to do this. I like to protect them. It also protects them if somehow a wire got loose and there was arcing from one to the other. I have always done this. I was taught by my mother to do this, who was taught by her father, who built his own houses, and so this is what we do. We're going to push it back in, but remember I told you before, this outlet was loose. Why? Because the box is set too far into the wall. It should be set in level with the drywall, and it's too far in. But that's okay, because as long as the screws are long enough to make it somewhat secure, we're good. If they're not, we're going to have to get longer screws. And by the way, these are specialty screws. They're electrical screws. They're flat, and they taper in with a flat. No point. Why? Because they don't want, like wood screws would puncture. We don't want any wires punctured. What we can do is put spacers. I bought some a long time ago. I've used them over and over again. They're like little plastic shims. These ones are by Buchanan. They're called Caterpillars, and they're specifically for doing supporting loose outlets. It says that on here, but they look like this. You just fold them like this into themselves and press them together, and they fit into themselves to each other like Legos, basically. So you just use your best judgment as to how many spacers you need. I am going to use 2 little pieces, press them into the little guy beside it, and I'm going to put it, there's a hole in the center. You put that screw right through that hole, and this will take up space in the wall, making it firm up against the box when you screw it in. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. I love these things. These are great. Let's see what happens. Let's see if this works. Don't tighten one side all the way. Just go back and forth so that you can put it in easily. If you tighten one side all the way, it'll be harder to get the other screw back in. I'm thinking I might need another spacer. Okay, so I've added a 3rd spacer. It's really tight. The screws are good, and this has no give. This is great. This is what we want. The green, lime green spacers are taking up room to prevent the outlet from being pushed back through the drywall up against the box. And now we're going to switch. I'm going to switch my screw head from my Phillips to my flat head and put the outlet cover on. I'm being confident that it's going to work. Normally what I do is I turn the breaker on and I test it before I set everything back in place, but I'm fairly confident it's going to work okay. So one little trick, don't over screw this little center screw. You don't want to strip the threads. And the tighter you screw this in, the more pucker there'll be. See how that'll go in and it won't look right. So I just keep it so that it's snug, and that one's not snug enough, so we're going to keep turning it. And because I like everything a certain way, I always do mine horizontally. I am going to plug in my nightlight, and I am going to turn it on, and I'm going to run downstairs and turn the breaker on. By the way, as you notice, this is upside down because the bigger prong is on the top. If I didn't like that and I wanted it this way, this one doesn't turn for me to do that. All I'd simply would have to have done was turn the outlet in the box, making sure the wiring doesn't get loose, placing it in, and then screwing it back in. That's all I would have to have done to make this outlet with the wide prong on the bottom. Okay, so we have power. The outlet change was a success. Now I'm going to take you over to another outlet that I did before that has a slightly different wiring, just so I can show you the difference. All right, here's the other outlet I wanted to show you. Essentially, it is just like the other one. It's a 15 amp, but rather than having one neutral wire going into the silver and one hot wire, which in this case is red, not black, going into the gold terminal, it looks like it has 2, it has double, but it's really one wire. The coating has been removed and it's looped around on both sides. You can see it's looped around here and looped around here. Essentially what that means is it's daisy chained. Just like you run your Christmas tree lights around your tree, you plug one end into another strand, That's kind of the premise. It means this outlet is getting its power from another one somewhere else in this room or somewhere else in the house. So that's all I wanted to show you. Thank you so much, and I hope this was helpful.